Imagine soaring headfirst through a tempestuous alien sky, where the rain is not made of soothing water, but of microscopic silicate droplets violently whipped by supersonic winds. These glassy particles catch the faint light of a distant host star, scattering the blue wavelengths across the vast emptiness of space to create a mesmerizing sapphire beacon. The visual serenity is a masterful cosmic deception, masking a chaotic domain where jagged shards of glass rain sideways through a permanent howling twilight. Deep within the interstellar dark, other realms offer a terrifying and magnificent scale, built entirely from liquid, far exceeding the thin veneer of oceans found on Earth. Picture a boundless, sun-drenched surface where the welcoming light quickly fades into a deep, perpetual indigo, before vanishing entirely into a crushing, sunless abyss. This immense volume of water represents a staggering portion of the planet's total mass, a world defined completely by its silent, fluid heart and unimaginable pressures. If we were to look closer at the most ancient corners of the cosmos, we would find venerable wanderers that have endured since the universe itself was in its earliest infancy. Born in the crowded, glittering heart of a primeval globular cluster, planets like PSR B1620-26b have survived the chaotic, destructive dance of stellar evolution for over 12 billion years. This sense of cosmic history is profoundly humbling, revealing worlds that stood as silent, spinning witnesses while the first galaxies were still struggling to form. Surprisingly, the human mind possesses the unique power to traverse these unfathomable distances, while the physical form remains perfectly still and entirely at peace. As you absorb the dizzying scale of these celestial behemoths, feel the reassuring, solid support of the mattress directly beneath you. You're safe. This quiet sanctuary is your private launchpad into the velvet dark, shielding you completely from the crushing gravity and howling storms of the void. Let the steady, rhythmic pulse of your own breathing anchor you to the present moment as your imagination detaches and drifts toward the stars. These wonders are yours to inherit as you sleep, waiting patiently across the light years to unfold their secrets. The universe is preparing to paint its masterpieces across the back of your closed eyelids, inviting you to surrender to the vast and beautiful unknown. Allow the comforting weight of exhaustion to pull you downward, even as your awareness floats upward into the limitless night. The journey begins in the most vibrant corner of the celestial gallery, ready to reveal a breathtaking canvas of colours. Rather than water, the gentle hues of scattered starlight reflect off microscopic silicate droplets suspended in the tempestuous air. These glassy particles catch the light of the host star, scattering the blue wavelengths across the vast emptiness of space to create a mesmerizing sapphire beacon. The visual serenity is a cosmic illusion, masking a chaotic domain where jagged shards of glass rain sideways through the permanent twilight. To behold this azure sphere from a distance is to witness a masterpiece of celestial deception. It hangs in the dark like a precious jewel, an inviting splash of colour against the monochrome void. Yet this brilliant blue orb stands as a testament to the extreme and awe-inspiring conditions that govern the outer reaches of our galaxy. Picture a world where the sky is permanently tinted reddish-orange by a cool M-dwarf star, much like the distant realm of Kepler 186a. Here, the very concept of daylight is profoundly transformed into a perpetual dim sunset that bathes the landscape in warm copper tones. The star it orbits is smaller and cooler than our own sun, radiating a softer, crimson-hued energy that fundamentally alters the visual spectrum of the entire planet. This cosmic structure bathes potential oceans and continents in a surreal, eternal twilight, where shadows stretch long and dark across the foreign soil. Any native flora that might cling to the surface would likely evolve to absorb these specific wavelengths, perhaps growing in shades of deep purple or even black to harvest the sparse solar energy. The gentle hues of scattered starlight filtering through the thin atmosphere would create a horizon that forever burns with the colours of autumn. Standing on such a surface, the eye would slowly adjust to the vermilion glow dominating the heavens. The fiery sky would cast a hypnotic, calming aura over the silent landscape, wrapping the world in a quiet, rusty embrace. It is a painted canvas of continuous dusk, offering a glimpse into the gentle twilight of red dwarf systems. Notice how the completely dark atmosphere of Tres 2b reflects less than 1% of the light that hits it, making it blacker than the deepest coal. This shadowy behemoth absorbs the intense radiation from its nearby sun like an endless cosmic sponge, refusing to shine or sparkle in the void. It orbits perilously close to its host star, yet remains a haunting silhouette, cloaked in an impenetrable veil of light-devouring gases. Surprisingly, the universe produces such profound darkness through a mysterious cocktail of vaporized sodium, potassium, or titanium oxide floating in the upper atmosphere. These exotic chemicals greedily swallow the incoming photons, trapping the stellar energy within a sweltering invisible envelope. The sheer absence of reflected light makes it one of the darkest known objects in the universe, a phantom planet haunting its solar system. If we were to look closer, we might catch a very faint, ominous crimson glow emanating from the sheer thermal heat of the dark sphere. The planet is essentially baking in the stellar glare, its dark mass radiating a subtle, ember-like warmth against the absolute black of space. It is a silent observer in the light, a master of stealth moving quietly through the fiery glare of its parent star. Curiously, GJ504b radiates a soft magenta glow from the heat of its own recent formation. Unlike ancient worlds that have cooled over billions of years, this youthful giant is still contracting, releasing immense gravitational energy as a striking fuchsia luminance. It is a planetary newborn, glowing like a dark cherry blossom in the frigid expanse of its stellar neighbourhood. The gentle hues of scattered starlight from its primary sun are completely overpowered by the planet's internal, rosy luminescence. With clouds entirely composed of complex exotic weather patterns, the pinkish light filters through heavy layers of alien smog. This creates a mesmerizing, softly glowing orb that looks more like a vibrant, suspended ember than a traditional gas giant. This radiant magenta hue tells the turbulent story of planetary birth, capturing the exact fleeting epoch when a world is too hot to freeze but too small to ignite as a star. It sweeps through its orbit as a beacon of creation, a vivid splash of pink against the velvet blackness. To gaze upon it is to witness the lingering, beautiful afterglow of celestial genesis. High-altitude clouds on Kepler 7b create a brilliant, highly reflective western hemisphere that shines like a gleaming mirror in space. This dazzling asymmetry means that one half of the planet aggressively bounces the host star's light back into the void, while the eastern side remains comparatively muted and dark. The resulting optical effect is a striking dual-tone sphere that flashes brilliantly as it traces its eternal orbit. These shimmering clouds are not made of water droplets, but rather exotic minerals and silicates suspended high in the upper atmosphere. They form a thick, unbroken planetary shield that catches the incoming stellar rays, reflecting them with an efficiency that rivals polished metal. The sheer brightness of this western hemisphere turns the planet into a spectacular, natural reflector sweeping through the cosmic dark. This dramatic weather pattern is permanently locked in place by the intense, unyielding thermal dynamics of the tidally locked world. The blindingly bright cloud deck serves as a protective sunshade, deflecting the scorching heat away from the atmospheric depths. It is a masterclass in planetary engineering by nature, a shining beacon of alien meteorology, dancing permanently in the harsh glare of its distant sun. If we were to look closer at WASP 76b, we would see the Terminator line glowing fiercely as iron vaporizes into the dayside. The eternal boundary between day and night on this extreme world is a violent threshold of immense thermal shock. As the atmospheric currents drag cooler material from the dark side into the blistering glare of the sun, the The sheer heat causes heavy metals to instantly flash into luminous vapor. This cosmic structure creates a fiery, glowing ring that wraps entirely around the planet, marking the exact perimeter where shadows burn away into white-hot daylight. The gentle hues of scattered starlight are utterly eclipsed by the raw, incandescent fury of boiling iron. It is a spectacular, apocalyptic sunrise that never ends, a permanent ribbon of fire suspended high in the atmosphere. As the vaporized metal is carried back toward the night side by supersonic winds, it cools and condenses, falling as a relentless rain of molten liquid iron. This cyclic, terrifying weather system keeps the planetary terminator perpetually illuminated by the raw energy of phase-shifting metals. It is a world where the very air is forged in fire, casting an intimidating, brilliant halo into the abyss. Some ultra-hot Jupiters possess daysides so incredibly hot they glow with their own continuous, blinding blue-white starlight. These massive gas giants orbit so close to their massive host stars that their atmospheres are heated to temperatures rivaling the surfaces of actual suns. The sheer thermal energy saturates the planetary gases until they ignite with a fierce, independent luminance, blurring the line between a planet and a star. To observe one of these behemoths is to see a celestial body caught in a perpetual state of incandescent agony. The radiant energy is so intense that molecules are completely torn apart, leaving a plasma-like envelope that hums with raw blue-white power. They do not merely reflect their host star's light, but actively contribute to the system's brilliance with their own furious thermal roar. This blinding glow is the visible manifestation of a planet slowly being consumed by its proximity to the stellar inferno. The extreme heat causes the atmosphere to puff outward, shedding a glowing trail of superheated material into the silent cosmic void. They are magnificent, doomed worlds, burning with a brilliant spectral intensity as they spiral through their fiery, tightly bound orbits. The hazy atmosphere of Super-Earth GJ1214b scatters light in a way that would make sunsets last for hours in endless shades of purple. Shrouded in a thick, steamy envelope of exotic gases and photochemical smog, this mysterious water world plays spectacular tricks with the incoming starlight. As the sun dips toward the horizon, the dense haze selectively filters the light, painting the sky in deep, bruised violets and soft lavenders. Notice how this atmospheric density slows the transition from day to night, stretching the twilight into a long, hypnotic display of colour. The gentle hues of scattered starlight blend seamlessly with the dense water vapour, creating a heavy, luminous fog that blankets the globe. The entire sky becomes a swirling watercolour canvas of plum and amethyst, casting a serene, surreal glow over the hidden, pressurised oceans below. This perpetual purple twilight offers a stark contrast to the sharp, fleeting sunsets of thinner atmosphered worlds. It is a quiet, atmospheric cathedral where the dying light is held and magnified by the dense, exotic air. To stand beneath this sky would be to exist in a permanent, dreamlike evening, wrapped in the soft, velvet colours of a distant super-Earth. Far away, young planets still wrapped in their birth disks emit a gentle infrared warmth that pierces through the surrounding cosmic dust. These infant worlds are hidden from the visible spectrum, heavily cloaked by the thick, swirling clouds of gas and debris from which they are actively forming. Yet, the intense heat generated by their rapid gravitational collapse acts as a glowing beacon, shining brightly in the invisible infrared wavelengths. This cosmic structure reveals a hidden nursery where the delicate, violent process of planetary construction is currently underway. The warm glow pulsing from the deep centre of the dust disk highlights the precise location where a new world is clearing its orbital path. It is a thermal signature of creation, a soft, invisible light that cuts through the murky, chaotic environment of the protoplanetary nebula. By observing this gentle infrared warmth, The silent, invisible birth cries of these celestial newborns can be witnessed across the light years. The heat slowly dissipates as the planets age and settle into their final orbits, eventually surrendering to the absolute cold of space. For now, they remain hidden, glowing embers in the dark, slowly gathering the mass that will define their eternal destiny. Starlight filtering through the complex ring system of J1407b creates rhythmic, sweeping bands of shadow and light across its expansive sky. This titanic gas giant is surrounded by an intricate, massive disk of icy and rocky debris, far larger and heavier than anything seen in our local solar system. As the planet rotates and orbits, the distant sun slips behind this colossal structured halo, turning the heavens into a mesmerizing kinetic sculpture. Picture the dramatic interplay of light as enormous, solid bands of darkness sweep across the cloud tops, followed by sudden, brilliant flashes of unfiltered starlight. The gaps between the rings act as colossal cosmic blinds, opening and closing the celestial curtains in a perfectly timed gravitational waltz. The gentle hues of scattered starlight are constantly interrupted, painting the atmosphere with the moving, shadowy architecture of the rings themselves. This continuous eclipse paints a dynamic, ever-changing barcode of twilight and day across the face of the massive planet. The sheer scale of the rings dictates the weather and the visual rhythm of the world, imposing a majestic, sweeping geometry upon the heavens. It is a sky dominated by its own glorious crown, forever dancing in the flickering, fragmented light of a distant, obscured sun. The rhythmic thrum of these eternal winds generates a deafening, continuous roar that would shatter the eardrums of any terrestrial listener. This is a tempest of unimaginable scale, where the supersonic gale forces create a permanent global hurricane that never wanes or falters. The sheer friction of the glass-laden air moving at such velocities generates immense static charges and a terrifying whistling shriek in the dark. Notice how the sheer power of this atmospheric jet stream completely dictates the climate, preventing any heat from settling in one localized place. The silicates are relentlessly churned and pulverized, turning the sky into a massive planet-wide sandblaster that erodes everything it touches. It is a symphony of pure, destructive weather, playing a chaotic and endless movement in the harsh depths of space. Picture a world where the weather cycles produce something far stranger than frozen water, creating a dazzling metallic precipitation. On massive, ultra-hot exoplanets, the upper atmosphere cools just enough on the night side to allow heavy compounds to condense out of the air. Here, titanium oxide solidifies out of the gaseous vapor, falling like a heavy, glittering snow through the alien twilight. This shimmering downfall does not accumulate into soft, powdery drifts, but rather streaks the darkness with heavy, reflective flakes of solid metal. The flakes catch the faint, ambient glow of the planetary storms, creating a surreal, sparkling blizzard that plummets into the crushing depths below. As this exotic snow sinks into the hotter, lower layers of the gas giant, it flash melts back into vapor, beginning the endless cycle anew. Deep within this metallic flurry, the atmosphere sings with the faint ringing hum of millions of solid particles colliding violently in the wind. The visual spectacle of a glittering silver-white blizzard is accompanied by a gentle, percussive rustle that sweeps across the planetary limb. It is a strangely beautiful, freezing storm composed entirely of sunscreen ingredients, burying the lower skies in a rain of pure starlight. The extreme temperature difference on tidally locked planets drives supersonic jet streams that perpetually circle the globe in a frantic, unyielding race. Because one side faces a permanent scorching day and the other a freezing, endless night, the atmosphere desperately attempts to balance the catastrophic thermal divide. This cosmic thermal engine creates equatorial winds that effortlessly break the sound barrier, carrying blistering heat toward the dark hemisphere. If we were to look closer, we would see these jet streams carving massive horizontal bands across the planet's thick cloud decks. The air moves with such incredible velocity that it generates a deep, rumbling bass note, a planetary heartbeat vibrating through the thick gases. This continuous movement forms a powerful atmospheric conveyor belt, transferring billions of tons of superheated material every single second. As you absorb the scale of these celestial winds, allow your own breathing to slow and steady in the quiet of your room. Feel the calm stillness of your resting body, a stark and comforting contrast to the raging supersonic tempests of those distant worlds. Let the heavy rhythmic thrum of the alien jet streams remain a distant, abstract melody, safely isolated across the light years. Surprisingly, the atmosphere of the bizarre world WASP 107b is so incredibly fluffy that it resembles the density of a spun cotton candy wisp. Despite being roughly the size of Jupiter, this peculiar planet possesses only a tiny fraction of its mass, resulting in a loosely bound, highly inflated gaseous envelope. The gravitational hold on this world is so exceptionally weak that its atmosphere balloons outward into space, creating a vast, insubstantial sphere. This structure of extreme inflation makes the planet incredibly vulnerable to the fierce stellar winds of its host star, which slowly strip the fluffy gases away. It leaves behind a trailing comet-like wake of escaping hydrogen, a silent testament to the planet's slow evaporation into the void. It is a bloated, whisper-quiet giant, floating like an ethereal ghost through the harsh reality of its solar system. Winds on brown dwarfs can create immense, Earth-sized storms that persist for centuries with a steady, roaring, low-frequency hum. These strange objects, often called failed stars, possess no solid surface, consisting entirely of churning gases heated by the compression of their own immense gravity. Within these dark, sweltering envelopes, chaotic convection currents drive weather systems that easily dwarf the largest hurricanes in our solar system. Notice how the heavy, cloud-crushing gravity of the brown dwarf condenses these storms into tight, incredibly violent vortexes of superheated iron and silicates. The friction of these massive weather patterns generates powerful magnetic fields and a constant, crackling discharge of global static electricity. The resulting sound is a terrifying, continuous groan of grinding atmospheric layers, echoing endlessly through a sky with no dawn. These colossal tempests do not rely on the heat of a parent sun, but are fueled entirely by the internal, dying embers of the dwarf itself. They migrate slowly across the substellar surface, tearing through neighbouring cloud bands and absorbing smaller vortices in a slow, cannibalistic dance. It is a realm of eternal, self-sustaining turbulence, hiding colossal maelstroms in the absolute pitch-black silence of the interstellar void. Deep within the atmospheric furnace of gas giants like HATP-7b, corundum actually precipitates from the clouds, meaning it rains liquid rubies and sapphires. On the scorching day side of this tidally locked behemoth, aluminum oxide exists as a high-altitude, superheated vapour, invisible and swirling in the tempest. However, as the supersonic winds drag this vapour across the terminator line into the cooler night side, a miraculous and terrifying condensation occurs. Picture the dark hemisphere of this giant, where the sudden drop in temperature forces the vapour to crystallise into precious gemstones. Instead of water droplets, a torrential downpour of heavy faceted corundum plummets through the lower cloud decks, slicing effortlessly through the thick air. The friction of millions of gems falling at terminal velocity creates a high-pitched, crystalline singing sound, a haunting chime in the dark. As you imagine this glittering, lethal rain, let your shoulders drop and feel the solid, reassuring support of the surface beneath you. Your environment is safe, calm, and perfectly still, completely free from the chaotic, diamond-edged storms that ravage the skies of distant behemoths. You can simply rest and listen to the silent symphony of the cosmos, from the ultimate safety of your own sanctuary. Helium snow is theorized to drift slowly downward in the frigid, crushing depths of ancient gas giants, deep below the turbulent visible cloud tops. As these massive planets age over billions of years, their internal temperatures slowly drop, fundamentally altering the physics of their deep atmospheres. In these extreme conditions of incredible pressure and cooling temperatures, the normally miscible mixture of hydrogen and helium begins to violently separate. This atmospheric unmixing causes the heavier helium to condense into microscopic liquid droplets that gather together to form dense metallic flakes. These flakes initiate a slow, majestic and relentless snowfall toward the planet's core, a silent migration of matter in the pitch-black abyss. The falling helium releases a faint residual friction heat as it sinks, creating a slow, rhythmic convection that echoes with a deep planetary rumble. The process of helium precipitation acts like a massive internal clock, slowly draining the upper atmosphere of its original chemical composition. It is a quiet, subterranean blizzard that lasts for eons, fundamentally reshaping the internal structure of the world from the inside out. This invisible snowstorm is a gentle swan song of planetary aging, a cold, heavy rain falling endlessly in the total absence of light. Upper atmospheric layers on incredibly hot gas giants often escape the planet's gravitational pull entirely, forming majestic comet-like tails of trailing gas. As these massive worlds orbit dangerously close to their host stars, the intense ultraviolet radiation boils the outermost gases, causing them to expand violently. The thermal kinetic energy easily overtakes the planet's gravity, sending millions of tons of superheated hydrogen bleeding away into the cosmic void. If we were to look closer, this escaping atmosphere forms a massive sweeping bow shock ahead of the planet, and an elongated, glowing tail trailing far behind it. The tail vibrates like a plucked string as it interacts with the harsh stellar winds, creating a silent magnetic flutter in the vacuum of space. It transforms the planet from a simple sphere into an aerodynamic celestial teardrop, perpetually weeping its own mass into the dark. On certain mid-sized oceanic worlds, thick layers of photochemical smog create a silent, static haze that completely obscures the mysterious depths below. Unlike the dynamic, swirling storms of traditional gas giants, this atmospheric layer is remarkably calm, thick, and utterly featureless to the outside observer. The intense stellar radiation gently cooks the complex hydrocarbons in the upper atmosphere, producing a heavy, opaque blanket of suspended soot and organic polymers. Notice how this dense, unmoving fog acts as an immense acoustic dampener, swallowing any sounds that might rise from the volatile surfaces hidden beneath. The winds here are sluggish, pushing the smog in slow global tides rather than violent localized storms, creating a deeply muffled, eerie quiet. It is a world wrapped securely in a heavy insulating quilt, where the sky is a permanent, featureless ceiling of mustard yellow or pale orange murk. As you visualize this still, silent smog, take a slow, deep breath, enjoying the clear, crisp air of your own environment. Allow the tension in your jaw to slowly release, finding absolute comfort in the steady, familiar rhythms of your own resting body. The heavy, stagnant skies of those distant worlds are millions of miles away, leaving you entirely immersed in perfect, undisturbed peace. Thunderstorms on hypermassive exoplanets could produce lightning strikes thousands of times more powerful than anything ever seen in our solar system. The intense thermal energy and rapid rotation of these giants create deep, convective cloud columns that tower for hundreds of miles into the alien sky. Within these colossal thunderheads, the violent collision of water, ammonia, and exotic mineral ice generates friction that builds up unimaginable electrical charges. When these immense electrical differences finally equalize, they discharge in blinding, planet-spanning flashes of pure plasma-burning lightning. The resulting thunderclap is a concussive shockwave of acoustic energy, a deafening boom that ripples outward and violently compresses the surrounding atmospheric gases. This rolling thunder creates a continuous, earth-shattering bass note that physically shakes the lower atmospheric layers, a booming heartbeat of raw electromagnetic power. These superstorms do not gently pass like summer rain. They are deeply rooted, semi-permanent features that define the inherently hostile nature of the planet. The sky becomes a chaotic strobe light of brilliant, branching electricity, momentarily illuminating the churning, violent cloud canyons in harsh actinic white. It is the ultimate symphony of the sky, a magnificent and terrifying crescendo of nature playing out on the grandest, most electrifying stage imaginable. Beneath that grand, electrifying stage of the upper atmosphere, the actual solid surfaces of these worlds offer their own magnificent and terrifying crescendos. The rocky crust of a notoriously sweltering super-Earth is entirely covered by a churning, incandescent ocean of liquid lava. This is not a localized volcanic eruption, but a global sea of molten silicates constantly heated by the relentless glare of its parent star. The radiant warmth of flowing magma would be instantly incinerating to any organic material, glowing with a fierce, continuous amber light. Currents of superheated liquid rock circulate across the hemisphere, driven by immense thermal gradients that keep the surface in a state of perpetual, boiling fluid dynamics. Viscous waves of glowing stone crash against temporary cooling shores before being swallowed back into the fiery depths. To gaze upon this hellscape is to witness a planet completely stripped of its solid shell, offering a rare glimpse into the raw internal anatomy of a rocky world. It is an endless ocean without a single drop of water, radiating a terrifying heat that aggressively pushes back against the cold vacuum of space. The entire globe throbs with a heavy geological heartbeat, wrapped in a blinding fluid crust of pure fire. Picture the daytime side of a tightly bound terrestrial world, where the radiant energy is so extreme that the rock itself vaporizes to form a thin, mineral-rich atmosphere. The surface is subjected to temperatures that effortlessly break molecular bonds, turning solid ground into a shimmering heavy mist of gaseous silicon and iron. The planet literally evaporates under the punishing gaze of its star, bleeding its own mass into the sky. This bizarre structure of atmospheric rock creates a sky completely alien to our understanding, tinted with the heavy metallic hues of vaporized minerals. The thin air is highly toxic and incredibly dense near the surface, forming low-lying clouds of gaseous magma that hover just above the melting crust. It represents a state of matter where geology and meteorology become indistinguishable, blending the ground and the air into a single, scorching continuum. Standing here, if one could survive the blinding radiation, the horizon would waver and distort through a thick, shimmering heat haze of vaporized earth. The radiant warmth of flowing magma beneath your feet would be matched only by the sweltering metallic fog pressing down from above. It is a world actively boiling away, its very foundation dissolving into a ghostly mineral sky. Notice how that same mineral vapor inevitably migrates toward the twilight zone, where it violently condenses and falls back to the surface as a steady rain of small stones. As the supersonic winds drag the vaporized rock out of the blistering daylight, the sudden drop in temperature forces the gas to rapidly crystallize. This creates a terrifying weather system where the clouds grow heavy with solid pebbles rather than liquid droplets. A relentless, high-speed hailstorm of jagged, newly forged rocks plummets into the roiling lava seas below, creating a deafening, continuous clatter. The falling debris splashes into the magma oceans, creating glowing ripples and spectacular fountains of displaced liquid fire. It is a geological water cycle, constantly recycling the planet's crust through a brutal gauntlet of evaporation and rocky precipitation. As you visualize this apocalyptic stone rain, take a moment to notice the quiet, steady rhythm of your own breathing. Feel the gentle, yielding surface beneath you, a sanctuary of cool stability completely untouched by the violent crushing storms of raining Earth. The comforting stillness of your room anchors you safely away from the chaotic, deafening bombardment of those distant shores. Deep within the crushing depths of ancient water worlds, the ocean floor is likely mantled by towering glaciers of hot ice. Formed under immense planetary pressure rather than freezing temperatures, this exotic phase of water remains entirely solid, despite existing at hundreds of degrees above the boiling point. The sheer weight of the global ocean above compresses the water molecules into a dense crystalline lattice that refuses to melt. This structure creates a dark, sweltering abyss where liquid water violently interacts with a foundation of burning solid ice. The radiant warmth of flowing magma from the planet's core attempts to pierce this icy mantle, creating highly pressurized hydrothermal vents that blast superheated steam into the crushing dark. It is a paradoxical landscape where fire, liquid, and ice coexist in a tense, high-pressure equilibrium. These submerged glaciers would be completely unrecognizable to human eyes, devoid of snow or frost, appearing instead as clear, flawless crystal formations. They silently support the unimaginable weight of an entire world's ocean, locking away immense thermal energy within their rigid molecular cages. It is a silent, unmoving foundation built entirely from an exotic burning frost. Surprisingly, the crushing gravity of massive super-Earths creates mountains that are physically flatter and wider than those found on any standard terrestrial world. The downward pull on these dense planets is so fiercely uncompromising that it prevents tectonic forces from thrusting peaks high into the atmosphere. Any landmass that attempts to rise is aggressively dragged back down, flattening the terrain into sprawling low-profile ranges. Picture a landscape dominated by incredibly wide, gently sloping domes of solid rock, completely devoid of jagged, soaring summits or deep, dramatic valleys. The geological features are heavily squashed, forced to spread horizontally across the horizon, rather than reaching upward toward the alien sky. Even the most violent tectonic collisions can only produce broad, flattened ridges that look like massive, slumbering leviathans of stone. Traversing this heavy terrain would be an exhausting endeavour, as the unrelenting gravity amplifies the weight of every movement and solidifies the flattened crust. The sheer density of the world dictates a rugged, yet incredibly low-slung topography, compressing the natural majesty of geology into a dense horizontal plane. It is a heavy, crouching landscape, permanently humbled by the immense invisible weight of its own mass. On worlds tightly orbiting hyperactive dwarf stars, the surface is constantly baked by sterilizing, invisible waves of extreme ultraviolet radiation. These violent stellar outbursts completely strip away any protective atmospheric layers, leaving the naked crust fully exposed to the harsh, searing energy of the cosmos. The incoming radiation relentlessly scorches the rocks, chemically bleaching the terrain into a desolate, faded wasteland. If we were to look closer, the surface would likely glow with an eerie secondary fluorescence as the minerals absorb and re-emit the punishing stellar energy. The radiant warmth of flowing magma from occasional volcanic fissures is entirely eclipsed by the biting, highly energetic sting of the radioactive daylight. It is an environment so perfectly hostile that the very chemical building blocks of complex molecules are instantly shattered upon contact with the surface. Allow your eyes to gently close for a moment, appreciating the soft, dim lighting of your immediate surroundings. Feel the natural protective layers of your environment wrapping you in a comforting, shaded embrace, shielding you from any harsh extremes. You exist in a gentle, nurturing oasis, perfectly insulated from the blinding, sterilizing glare that relentlessly scrubs those barren worlds clean. Subsurface oceans on rogue ice worlds may be kept comfortably warm by the steady, silent decay of radioactive elements trapped within their rocky cores. Drifting endlessly through the pitch-black void between star systems, these wandering planets completely lack the vital, warming sunlight of a host star. Instead, their internal heat relies entirely on the slow atomic breakdown of ancient isotopes forged in long-dead supernovas. This structure provides an incredibly stable, long-lasting energy source that gently radiates outward, melting the bottom layers of the planet's thick, icy shell. A deep global ocean of liquid water is permanently trapped between the freezing outer crust and the slowly simmering radioactive seafloor. It is a hidden, subterranean sanctuary, completely insulated from the absolute zero temperatures of the interstellar vacuum. In the eternal darkness of these submerged realms, exotic chemical reactions around hydrothermal vents could potentially spark and sustain the fragile flickers of biology. The radiant warmth of flowing magma from deep-sea fissures provides the only source of energy in a world permanently exiled from the light. They are silent, drifting incubators, hoarding their precious internal heat as they navigate the lonely cosmic dark. Vast plains of frozen methane and nitrogen likely stretch across the permanently dark sides of planets, orbiting extremely far from their fading suns. In these frigid, outer reaches of a solar system, the ambient temperature plummets to a point where normally volatile gases condense and freeze solid. The atmosphere simply collapses onto the ground, paving the entire hemisphere in a thick, smooth sheet of exotic pale ice. Notice how this creates a landscape of absolute terrifying stillness, where even the atmosphere has been frozen into silence. The terrain is a flat, unbroken mirror of solid nitrogen, occasionally interrupted by jagged, slow-moving glaciers of heavy methane. Without the radiant warmth of flowing magma or the gentle touch of a sun, the surface remains locked in an eternal cryogenic stasis. This frozen wasteland perfectly preserves the geological history of the planet, free from the erosive forces of wind, rain, or active tectonics. It stands as a silent monument to extreme cold, a crystalline desert spanning thousands of miles in every direction. The only light to ever grace these plains is the faint, distant twinkle of foreign stars reflecting off the smooth, unyielding ice. Some ancient planets have lost their atmospheres entirely over billions of years, leaving behind barren, airless husks deeply scarred by cosmic impacts. Without a protective blanket of gas to burn up incoming debris, every passing asteroid and comet violently slams directly into the exposed crust. This relentless bombardment churns the surface into a chaotic, overlapping tapestry of shattered craters and jagged impact basins. These dead worlds are a stark reminder of the chaotic, violent mechanics of the universe, standing as silent, battered shields for the rest of their solar systems. The pulverized rock, known as regolith, covers the ground in a fine, completely dry powder that records the undisturbed footprints of every collision. Without wind or water to smooth the scars, a single crater will remain perfectly preserved for eons in the permanent vacuum. As you consider the desolate, impact-scarred plains of these ancient husks, soften the muscles in your face and allow yourself a deep, calming breath. You're nestled in a vibrant, living ecosystem, protected by a thick, nurturing atmosphere that gently breathes life into your world. The chaotic bombardment of the cosmos is merely a distant reality, far removed from the safe, breathing haven you currently occupy. Volcanic activity on tidally locked planets might be uniquely concentrated in a permanent ring of fire located exactly at the day-night terminator. Because the massive gravitational pull of the host star constantly stretches the daytime hemisphere, the planet's crust is subjected to immense, unending tidal stress. This structural tension fractures the rock precisely at the boundary line between eternal light and eternal darkness, creating a continuous global fault line. Picture a spectacular glowing seam splitting the planet perfectly in half, a jagged meridian of erupting volcanoes and spewing lava vents. The radiant warmth of flowing magma is entirely localized to this dramatic twilight zone, casting long, terrifying shadows into the freezing night side. It acts as a massive geological pressure valve, releasing the trapped internal heat of a world caught in a brutal gravitational tug-of-war. This permanent ring of fire visually traces the exact circumference of the globe, a violent, fiery equator dividing two completely inhospitable extremes. The ash and smoke from these continuous eruptions are violently swept up by the Terminator winds, creating a chaotic, choking veil over the twilight region. It is a world actively tearing itself apart at the seams, balanced precariously on the sharp, burning edge between day and night. While the skies of massive giants play out a terrifying, electrifying crescendo, other worlds find a more tranquil rhythm in the crowded embrace of a planetary family. In the TRAPPIST-1 system, 7 rocky worlds are packed so tightly together that neighbouring planets would loom larger than the moon in their respective skies. Standing on the surface of one, you would see your sister worlds not as distant, flickering points of light, but as massive, detailed spheres drifting through the heavens with startling clarity. This cosmic structure creates a sky that is constantly alive with the presence of other worlds, turning the night into a grand display of celestial intimacy. You could discern the shifting cloud patterns, the glimmer of alien oceans, and the rugged, unmoving terrain of a world just a stone's throw away in cosmic terms. The gravitational dance between these 7 siblings is so perfectly tuned that they exist in a state of perpetual harmony, never drifting too close or too far from their shared centre. Such a sky offers a breathtaking perspective on the interconnectedness of planetary systems, where the horizon is never empty and the neighbours are always in view. The sheer scale of these looming orbs provides a sense of profound companionship, a reminder that even in the vastness of space, a world is rarely truly alone. It is a crowded, beautiful neighbourhood where every sunrise brings the silent, graceful transit of a sister world across the face of a cool red sun. Imagine looking up from the surface of Kepler 16b to see 2 distinct suns setting at different times in a mesmerizing binary star system. This world orbits a pair of stars, one a large orange K-dwarf and the other a smaller red M-dwarf, that circle each other every 41 days in a slow, gravitational waltz. This cosmic arrangement produces a sky where the light is never constant, as the 2 suns create overlapping shadows and complex patterns of illumination across the horizon. When one sun sets, the other may still hang high in the sky, casting a secondary glow that prevents the night from ever being truly dark. On certain days, the 2 stars might align perfectly in a celestial eclipse, momentarily plunging the landscape into a deep, eerie twilight before they emerge again in a flash of combined brilliance. The visual experience is one of constant flux, where the colours of the sky shift from warm amber to deep crimson as the stars complete their intricate movements. To stand on such a world is to witness the ultimate expression of stellar duality, where every object on the ground possesses 2 distinct identities in the light. The shadows dance and merge, reflecting the unbreakable bond that holds the stars together in the void. It is a place where time is measured not by one sun, but by the rhythmic crossing and parting of 2 radiant hearts, creating a sky that is twice as beautiful and twice as complex as our own. This structure of multiple stars means a planet could experience incredibly complex seasons driven by the intricate multi-layered waltz of its suns. Unlike the predictable seasonal cycle of Earth, a world in a triple or quadruple star system might endure overlapping periods of heat and cold that last for centuries or even millennia. The orbital distance from each star changes independently, creating a chaotic yet fascinating climate where spring might last for a decade, followed by an autumn that spans a lifetime. The gravitational tug from multiple directions can cause the planet's axial tilt to wobble, further complicating the atmospheric responses and the long-term weather patterns. One year might be dominated by the scorching proximity of a bright primary star, while the next few decades are defined by the soft, dim light of a distant secondary pair. This creates a landscape that must adapt to extreme variability, where forests or oceans might lay dormant for generations before being awakened by a change in the stellar alignment. Such a world exists in a state of constant slow-motion transformation, its environment dictated by a geometry of light that is almost impossible to map. The beauty of these complex seasons lies in their scale, reminding us of the vast, slow-moving gears of the universe that operate far beyond a human lifespan. It is a long-form symphony of temperature and light, where every living thing must learn the slow rhythmic pulse of multiple suns moving in a grand celestial ballet. Notice how the eternal twilight of tidally locked worlds like Proxima Centauri b creates a permanent motionless landscape trapped forever between extremes. On such a world, the sun never moves across the sky, remaining fixed in a single position for billions of years without ever dipping below the horizon. This creates a permanent dayside of scorched rock and a permanent nightside of frozen ice, with a narrow circular strip of perpetual evening separating the two. As you contemplate the frozen shadows of this borderland, feel the weight of your limbs against your bed or chair. Let your focus drift away from the frantic pace of the world and settle into the absolute unmoving quiet of your own resting state. You are perfectly safe, tethered to the calm centre of your own personal twilight, much like the stable, unmoving horizon of this distant red-tinted world. In this region of eternal dusk, the wind howls continuously as the atmosphere tries to balance the temperature between the fire and the frost. Yet, for a stationary observer, the view remains unchanged. A sun hanging low and red, casting long, dark shadows that never shorten or grow. It is a place of profound stillness amidst a global storm, a thin ribbon of habitable peace carved out of a planet of dualities, where time itself seems to have come to a graceful, permanent halt. Surprisingly, the universe contains planets with such highly eccentric orbits that they experience a phenomenon known as flash heating as they swing near their star. Planets like HD 80606b spend most of their time in the cold, distant reaches of their solar system, only to plunge toward their sun in a sudden, violent dive. During this brief close encounter, the temperature of the entire planet can skyrocket by over 1,000 degrees in just a few Earth hours. This sudden influx of energy triggers massive global storms that explode across the atmosphere with the force of 1,000,000 hurricanes. The air, previously still and frozen, becomes a churning cauldron of heat as the planet's dayside is baked by the intense proximity of the stellar furnace. These storms ripple across the globe, carrying the flash-heated gases toward the dark side in a desperate attempt to shed the overwhelming thermal load. If we were to look closer, we would see the atmosphere literally glowing with the sudden intensity of the encounter, before the planet retreats back into the cold dark. It is a cycle of extreme pulses, a planetary heart that beats with fire every few hundred days before returning to a long, icy slumber. This rhythmic alternation between absolute frozen silence and a sudden, screaming thermal crescendo defines the life of a world caught in a cosmic elliptical slingshot. This structure of planetary motion also includes worlds that orbit their stars so quickly that a single year lasts only a few Earth hours. These ultra-short period planets are hugged so tightly by their host stars that they are practically grazing the stellar atmosphere as they race through space. Because they are so close, the gravitational forces are immense, forcing the planet to travel at incredible speeds to avoid being pulled into the fiery depths. The sheer velocity of such an orbit is difficult to imagine, as the entire cycle of seasons and years repeats itself multiple times in a single day. On these worlds, the star would appear as a colossal, unmoving wall of fire dominating half the sky, while the planet skips across its surface like a stone on water. The centrifugal force from this rapid rotation helps maintain the planet's shape against the crushing tidal pull that seeks to tear it apart. These fleeting worlds represent the extreme edge of planetary survival, existing in a realm where the distinction between a planet and a solar flare begins to blur. They are the sprinters of the galaxy, moving with a frantic, beautiful energy that defies the slow, ponderous pace of larger, more distant worlds. Every few hours they complete a journey that takes our own world a full year, a silent, high-speed dash through the intense glare of a sun that never stops watching. Conversely, planets in the deep, distant orbits of their systems take tens of thousands of Earth years to complete a single, slow journey around their sun. Out in the cold, dark periphery of a solar system, the gravitational pull of the host star is a mere whisper, allowing these worlds to drift at a glacial pace. A single season on such a planet could last longer than the entire history of human civilization, defined by a sun that appears as little more than a particularly bright star. Deep within these outer reaches, time is measured in eons rather than days, and the landscape is locked in a state of nearly eternal frozen stasis. The atmosphere, if one exists, moves with a ponderous, heavy lethality, undisturbed by the frantic thermal cycles that plague the inner planets. It is a realm of absolute patience, where the planetary clock ticks once every few centuries, and the stars above seem more like companions than distant background lights. To contemplate these distant wanderers is to acknowledge the vast, silent scale of the cosmos, where time can stretch into an unrecognizable infinity. These worlds are the quiet sentinels of the void, slowly tracing their massive, lonely circles around a sun they barely know. They exist in a state of profound, cold peace, far removed from the heat and chaos of the inner system, moving with a dignity that only the passage of millennia can provide. This rhythmic gravitational harmony, known as orbital resonance, keeps packed systems stable over billions of years through mathematical precision. In systems like TRAPPIST-1, the planets tug on one another at regular repeating intervals, ensuring that their paths never cross or collide. This interaction creates a soothing, stable resonance, where for every 2 orbits one planet completes, its neighbour completes exactly 3, or 4, or 5. In this moment of celestial synchronicity, focus on the steady, effortless rhythm of your own heart. Notice how your body maintains its own internal balance without any conscious effort, much like the planets in their ancient resonant dance. You are part of a larger, harmonious design, resting in the quiet cradle of a stable and supportive universe that operates with the same precision as the stars. This gravitational music is the invisible glue of the galaxy, turning a collection of independent rocks into a single, cohesive planetary system. The resonance acts as a buffer against chaos, correcting small deviations in an orbit before they can grow into destructive forces. It is a testament to the underlying order of the universe, a silent mathematical song that has been playing since the very beginning of time, ensuring that the dance of the planets continues without end. Picture a star spinning so rapidly on its axis that its own gravity and centrifugal force cause it to become an oblate, flattened sun rather than a perfect sphere. A planet orbiting such a star would witness a distorted, bulging horizon that looks more like a celestial pebble than a glowing orb. This rapid rotation creates a temperature gradient across the star itself, with the poles being much hotter and brighter than the bulging, cooler equator. If we were to look closer, we would see the planet traversing a path that takes it through varying levels of stellar intensity, as it moves from the bright poles to the dimmer midsection. This structure creates a bizarre, flickering daytime where the light of the sun changes in quality and colour, depending on where the planet is in its orbit. The gravity from the star's equatorial bulge also tugs on the planet in a non-uniform way, causing its orbit to precess and wobble over time. This interaction between a flattened sun and its world is a reminder of the raw, physical power of rotation and the fluid nature of even the largest stars. The sky above such a planet would be dominated by a giant, squashed sun that pulses with different energies, turning the daytime into a strange, rhythmic display of stellar physics. It is a world governed by the frantic spin of its parent star, a place where even the sun itself is subject to the distorting power of speed. In some rare and fascinating instances, planets can be gravitationally perturbed into retrograde orbits, moving backward compared to the rotation of their host star. Most planets form from a spinning disk of dust and gas, inheriting the star's rotational direction as they coalesce into solid worlds. However, a violent encounter with another massive body or a complex gravitational interaction with a distant companion star can flip a planet's path entirely. This cosmic structure results in a world that defies the standard rules of its system, traversing its orbit in a lonely, contrary fashion. The sight from such a planet would be subtly disorienting, as the stars in the background would seem to drift in the opposite direction from what is expected. It is a celestial rebel, a planet that has been forced out of its original alignment and into a new solitary trajectory that crosses the paths of its more traditional siblings. These backward-moving worlds are often the survivors of ancient gravitational wars, markers of the chaotic history that shapes planetary systems over eons. Their presence serves as a reminder that even the most stable-seeming orbits can be upended by the immense forces of the galaxy, leaving a world to forge its own path. Moving against the grain, these planets continue their journey with a quiet, stubborn resilience, glimpsing the first ripples of the vast unknown oceans that await in the deep. This immense volume of water represents a significant portion of the planet's total mass, far exceeding the thin veneer of oceans found on Earth. Beneath the sun-drenched surface, the light quickly fades into a deep perpetual indigo before vanishing entirely into a crushing sunless abyss. It is a world defined by its liquid heart, a vast and silent reservoir that has never known the touch of dry land or the shadow of a mountain. Deep within these global oceans, the crushing pressure of the water column above performs a silent molecular alchemy on the liquid itself. As the weight of the sea reaches a critical threshold, the water molecules are forced into a rigid crystalline lattice known as Ice 7. Unlike the cold ice found in a terrestrial winter, this substance is hot, dense, and formed entirely through the sheer mechanical force of gravity. This exotic phase of water creates a solid foundation deep beneath the liquid waves, a crystalline floor that exists in a state of high-pressure equilibrium. The transition happens at such great depths that the temperature is actually higher than the boiling point at sea level, yet the water remains stubbornly solid. It is a hidden, tectonic layer of burning frost, a testament to the strange physics that govern the lightless depths of water-rich worlds. This internal structure prevents the ocean from interacting with the metallic core, creating a world where the ground is made of the very same substance as the sea. The ice is not a surface feature, but a structural component of the planet's mantle, supporting the weight of 1,000 atmospheres without flinching. It stands as a silent, unmoving guardian of the deep, a crystalline boundary that defines the limits of the liquid realm and the start of a solid, alien interior. Notice how the sheer volume of water on these planets would dilute heat with incredible efficiency, creating a global climate of startling stability. The massive thermal inertia of a 100-mile deep ocean prevents the sudden temperature swings common on rocky worlds, smoothing out the differences between day and night. Heat is distributed evenly across the sphere, ensuring that the polar regions and the equator exist in a state of nearly identical, humid warmth. This global uniformity prevents the formation of seasonal extremes, resulting in a world where the weather is a constant, predictable hum rather than a series of chaotic events. The atmosphere above such an ocean is thick and heavy, perpetually saturated with moisture that further insulates the planet from the cold of space. It is a realm of eternal tropical consistency, where the passage of years brings no change to the warm, silent dampness that defines the global environment. As you absorb the stability of this watery world, allow your own breathing to slow and steady in the quiet of your room. Feel the calm stillness of your resting body, a stark and comforting contrast to the immense, shifting volumes of those distant seas. Let the heavy, rhythmic thrum of the alien currents remain a distant, abstract melody, safely isolated across the light years while you rest in perfect, undisturbed peace. Surprisingly, some of these ocean worlds might lack a rocky seafloor entirely, with the water transitioning directly into a layer of high-pressure ice mantle. In these systems, the abundance of water is so extreme that it forms a self-contained shell thousands of miles thick, insulating the rocky core far below. The liquid ocean simply presses down until it solidifies, creating a boundary where the sea ends and a solid, crystalline interior begins. This structure means that the ocean never makes contact with a stony crust, preventing the minerals and salts of the core from leaching into the water. The sea is a pure, distilled expanse, isolated from the geological activity of the deep interior by a massive barrier of exotic ice. It is a planet built of layers of water in various states, a fluid and crystalline hybrid that challenges our understanding of how planetary bodies are organized. Without a rocky floor, there are no hydrothermal vents to enrich the water with the chemical energy of the interior. The ocean is a closed, nutrient-limited environment, relying entirely on what it could gather during its initial formation and what falls from the sky. It is a pristine, silent desert of liquid, a world where the water is as clear and deep as the vacuum of space that surrounds it, offering no foothold for the chaos of geology. The atmospheres of these water-rich worlds are often thick with heavy steam, creating a blurred boundary where it is impossible to tell where the ocean ends and the air begins. At the high pressures and temperatures of a super-Earth surface, the water can exist in a supercritical state, behaving as both a liquid and a gas simultaneously. This creates a dense, humid envelope that completely obscures the horizon in a permanent white-out fog of vaporized sea. The sky on such a world would be a featureless glowing white, scattering the light of the sun into a soft, directionless radiance. There are no clouds, only a universal, shimmering haze that permeates every inch of the atmosphere from the upper reaches down to the watery depths. It is an environment of absolute immersion, a world where the very concept of up and down is softened by the omnipresent, suffocating weight of the water vapor. Hycean worlds represent a completely novel environment in the galaxy, combining a vast, warm liquid ocean with a massive primary hydrogen atmosphere. These planets are typically larger than Earth, but smaller than Neptune, possessing enough gravity to retain a thick envelope of primordial gas. The hydrogen acts as a powerful greenhouse gas, keeping the underlying waters at temperatures suitable for a liquid state even in the cold reaches of a solar system. This atmospheric composition creates a chemical environment that is radically different from the oxygen-rich air of our own world, favouring the production of complex organic molecules. The pressure at the ocean's surface beneath such a massive atmosphere would be immense, yet the warmth and abundance of water make these worlds prime targets for the search for life. They are the blue giants of the planetary family, holding the potential for hidden biospheres beneath a veil of invisible, light-trapping gas. Softly release the tension in your jaw and shoulders as you imagine the immense, quiet warmth of these hydrogen-shrouded seas. You are nestled in the familiar gravity of your own world, breathing an air that is light and clear. Allow the thought of those heavy alien atmospheres to drift past you like a slow-moving cloud, leaving you in a state of tranquil, undisturbed focus as the secrets of the deep unfold. Giant waves on these global oceans could travel entirely unhindered by continents, wrapping completely around the planet in an endless rhythmic procession. Without land masses to break their momentum or dissipate their energy, these swells grow to heights that would be impossible in the confined basins of Earth. They are driven by the steady push of the wind and the gravitational tug of distant moons, moving with a silent, terrifying majesty across the featureless blue. This global wave system creates a constant, low-frequency hum that resonates through the water column, a physical manifestation of the planet's kinetic energy. A single pulse could circle the globe multiple times, overlapping and reinforcing other waves to create massive, temporary peaks in the open sea. It is a world of perpetual motion, where the water is never still, and the surface is a shifting landscape of moving mountains and valleys of liquid. To observe these waves from above would be to see a planet-wide pattern of geometry, a living topography of water that shifts and changes with the rotation of the world. The ocean is not a flat plane, but a sculpted surface of light and shadow, constantly rearranged by the invisible hands of gravity and wind. It is a symphony of motion played out on a global scale, a silent dance of the deep that has continued for millions of years without pause. Without the weathering of exposed rocks to provide a steady supply of minerals, the chemical composition of these deep oceans might be entirely different from Earth's seas. On our world, the salinity of the ocean is the result of billions of years of rain-washing minerals from the continents into the water. On a world of global oceans, the chemistry is dictated primarily by the volatile gases trapped during formation and the interactions with the upper atmosphere. Surprisingly, the universe provides these worlds with a palette of dissolved elements that may lack the common salts we associate with seawater, favouring instead a cocktail of ammonia or carbon-based compounds. This creates a liquid environment that is chemically cleaner in some respects, yet profoundly alien in its lack of geological influence. The ocean is a closed system, a self-contained chemical laboratory, where the building blocks of life must be found within the water and air themselves. This lack of mineral runoff means the water might be exceptionally clear, allowing what little starlight penetrates the atmosphere to reach deeper than it ever could on Earth. The abyss is not murky with silt, but a transparent indigo void that stretches on forever. It is a world of pure liquid, a crystalline sphere where the chemistry of the stars is reflected in the very composition of the sea, undisturbed by the grind of stone. The gentle tidal tugs from a nearby moon could generate enough internal friction to keep a subterranean ocean liquid beneath an icy crust. This process, known as tidal heating, occurs as the gravitational pull of the moon flexes the planet's interior, converting mechanical energy into thermal warmth. Even far beyond the traditional habitable zone of a star, this internal engine can sustain a vast dark sea hidden away from the freezing vacuum of space. Deep within these icy shells, the friction creates a warm, churning environment that supports hydrothermal activity on the sea floor. The ice above acts as a protective shield, blocking radiation and maintaining a stable pressure for the liquid water below. It is a hidden, vibrant sanctuary, a world where the energy for life comes not from the light of a sun, but from the rhythmic gravitational embrace of a celestial companion. Take a deep, slow breath and feel the steady, supportive strength of your own planet's crust. You're safely anchored on a world of light and air, while those dark, subterranean seas churn in the absolute silence of the outer system. Let the sensation of warmth and safety spread through your limbs, finding comfort in the stability of your own environment as you listen to the rhythmic secrets of the shifting ice. This structure of planetary development reveals that many water worlds were not born in their current positions, but often migrate inward from the cold outer edges of their solar systems. Formed far beyond the snowline where volatile ices are abundant, these planets are essentially massive snowballs of water, methane, and ammonia. Over millions of years, gravitational interactions with the protoplanetary disk and other planets nudge them toward the warmth of the host star. As they approach the sun, the outer ice begins to melt, transforming a frozen wasteland into a deep, global ocean world. This journey across the solar system completely rewrites the planet's destiny, moving it from a state of cryogenic stasis into a vibrant liquid existence. They are travellers from the dark, carrying the frozen riches of the outer system into the light, where they settle into their new watery identities as the blue gems of the inner system. This migration process creates a diverse array of water worlds, each with a unique history and chemical signature based on where it began its journey. Some are shrunken giants that lost their outer layers, while others are pristine travellers that have only recently found the sun's warmth. They are the nomads of the galaxy, moving with a quiet, stubborn resilience until they find their place in the light, glimpsing the first ripples of the vast unknown oceans that await in the deep. Deep within the silence of those unknown oceans, the structural logic of the universe shifts from fluid motion to a sharp, crystalline chill. In solar systems where carbon is more abundant than oxygen, planets form not from silicate rocks, but from the raw building blocks of graphite and diamond. Under the immense weight of the planetary crust, the carbon atoms are forced into a perfect tetrahedral lattice that stretches for thousands of miles. This massive internal structure creates a mantle composed of solid diamond, a geological vault of unimaginable value and hardness. The crystalline chill of compressed carbon defines the interior, where the heat of the core is conducted with incredible efficiency through the transparent stone. Unlike the messy volcanic interiors of silicate worlds, these planets are rigid, geometric masterpieces hidden beneath a thin skin of graphite soot. The pressure at these depths is so absolute that the very light of the core might be refracted through the mantle, creating a world that glows with an internal, subterranean brilliance. It is a planet of frozen, pressurized light, a jewel suspended in the void. As you consider the unyielding strength of such a world, allow your weight to settle into the support of your chair or bed. Feel the solidity of the floor beneath you, a stable anchor in a world of constant change. You're resting on the firm foundation of a familiar geology, safely removed from the pressurized diamond depths of the carbon giants. Let the cold, structural perfection of the diamond mantle remain a distant wonder, while you enjoy the soft, breathing comfort of your own room. Picture a landscape where the familiar softness of Earth's clay and soil is replaced by the industrial grit of a world forged from carbon and silicon. On the surface of these carbon-rich planets, the mountains are not made of granite or basalt, but of silicon carbide, a substance nearly as hard as diamond. These jagged, dark peaks rise sharply against a sky filled with heavy, soot-laden clouds, creating a horizon of unyielding, abrasive stone that would shatter any terrestrial tool. Deep within the lowlands, the valleys do not hold water or even liquid methane, but run deep with rivers and pools of heavy, viscous tar. This organic sludge is the result of complex chemical reactions in a sky devoid of free oxygen, where hydrocarbons accumulate into thick black seas. The contrast between the needle-sharp mountains and the sluggish, light-absorbing valleys creates a monochromatic world of extreme textures and structural permanence. It is a place of absolute durability, where the terrain is built to last for billions of years without the softening touch of wind or rain. The air itself would carry the heavy, pungent scent of bitumen and cold metal, moving slowly over a terrain that refuses to erode. This structure is a reminder of the universe's ability to take the same basic elements and arrange them into a reality that is fundamentally alien. It is a world of permanent shadows and obsidian-hard ridges, where the geological clock moves with a heavy, oil-soaked rhythm through the darkness. The surface is a testament to the crystalline chill of compressed carbon, a dark and frozen industrial park at the edge of the galaxy. The intense pressure at the core of a massive gas giant performs a different kind of miracle, compressing simple hydrogen into a shimmering, reflective liquid metal. Deep within these behemoths, the weight of the outer atmosphere becomes so great that the electron shells of hydrogen atoms are completely crushed. The gas ceases to be a vapor and transforms into a dense fluid state that conducts electricity with the efficiency of copper or silver. This liquid metallic hydrogen creates a vast, churning interior that generates incredibly powerful magnetic fields, wrapping the planet in an invisible shield. The internal environment is a sea of molten silver, glowing with the heat of the planet's original formation while vibrating with the energy of global currents. It is a realm of absolute conductivity, where the very substance of stars is turned into a fluid machinery of light and power. Waves of metallic fluid surge through the interior, driven by the intense heat of the core and the rapid rotation of the massive world above. This shimmering high-pressure ocean is the source of the planet's radio emissions, a screaming electronic song that echoes into the interstellar void. Surprisingly, The universe allows this exotic state of matter to exist as the dominant component of the most massive planets in our galaxy. It acts as a bridge between the gaseous exterior and the rocky core, a shimmering transition zone that defines the gravitational identity of the world. The core is not a place of darkness, but a radiant metallic heart beating with the raw strength of the fundamental forces. It is a liquid mirror of the universe's internal power, a hidden ocean of silver flowing in the absolute dark. Interestingly, some super-Earths may possess cores of pure iron so massive they generate incredibly powerful planetary magnetic fields that dwarf our own. These worlds are born from the metal-rich remnants of ancient stellar nurseries, accumulating iron and nickel with a ferocity that leaves little room for lighter rocks. The result is a planet with a density that pulls at the very fabric of space, creating a gravitational field that anchors a massive protective envelope. The liquid iron at the core swirled in colossal high-pressure eddies, acting as a planetary dynamo that pumps out a vast magnetic shield. This invisible structure reaches far into space, deflecting the harsh solar winds and protecting the atmosphere from being stripped away by the host star. It is a world protected by its own inner weight, a fortress of metal that stands defiant against the eroding power of the radiation. The sheer mass of the iron core ensures that the planet remains geologically active for billions of years, providing the warmth and stability needed for complex environments. It is a heavy metallic anchor in the void, a world that refuses to be moved by the chaotic forces of its solar system. As you absorb the image of this magnetic shield, take a slow, deep breath and feel the natural protection of your own atmosphere. You are enveloped in a gentle, invisible cocoon of air and magnetism that keeps you safe and warm. Find comfort in the quiet, supportive strength of your own body, a perfect micro-environment resting within the grand design of a stable world. You are held by the same fundamental forces that anchor the iron giants, resting in a state of perfect and protected calm. Exotic silicates unknown on Earth form naturally in the high-temperature environments of worlds orbiting very close to their stars. When the surface of a planet is subjected to the blistering heat and crushing pressure of a nearby sun, the molecular geometry of common minerals begins to buckle. Silicon and oxygen atoms are forced into high-density arrangements, such as the post-perovskite phase, which exist only in the deepest mantles of our own world. On these scorched planets, these minerals are not hidden in the deep interior, but form the very crust and mountains that face the stellar wind. This structure results in a landscape of crystalline complexity, where the ground itself possesses a molecular strength that can withstand the melting point of traditional rock. The terrain would appear as a vast, shimmering field of glass-like formations, reflecting the harsh light in a spectrum of industrial metallic colours. These exotic silicates conduct heat in strange ways, creating surface patterns that shift and glow with the energy of the nearby star. It is a world of permanent, crystalline fire, where the ground is a lattice of high-pressure minerals standing firm against the solar furnace. If we were to look closer, we would see a world where the distinction between rock and crystal has been erased by the sheer intensity of the environment. The ground is a living laboratory of high-pressure physics, a testament to the transformative power of a star's proximity. It is a landscape of permanent white-hot geometry, standing as a crystalline monument to the extreme conditions of the inner solar system. The crystalline chill of compressed carbon finds its match in these heat-forged minerals, creating a world of absolute and unyielding structural beauty. The crust of a planet formed from a destroyed white dwarf might be incredibly rich in heavy precious metals like gold, platinum and osmium. When a massive star reaches the end of its life and collapses, the intense nucleosynthesis of its final moments can forge an abundance of elements far heavier than iron. If a new world coalesces from these enriched remains, it inherits a mineral wealth that would be impossible in a younger, more pristine system. This structure creates a world where the very mountains might possess the luster of refined metal, and the plains are paved with the heavy dust of rare isotopes. The sheer density of the crust would be enormous, creating a terrain that feels physically heavy and unyielding to any form of erosion. It is a treasure house of the cosmos, a planet built from the ashes of a stellar cataclysm that has concentrated the rarest materials into a single sphere. The ground would shimmer with the colours of 1,000 mints, a landscape of gold and silver stretching out beneath a fading ancient sky. It is a world of absolute concentrated value, a planetary vault that preserves the final breath of a dying star in a solid and enduring form. The crystalline chill of compressed carbon in the form of diamond might be peppered with veins of pure platinum, creating a visual spectacle of unrivaled brilliance. Such a world is a reminder that death in the universe is often the precursor to a new and even more complex form of beauty. It stands as a silent, glittering relic of a star that once was, holding the concentrated history of a billion-year life within its metallic skin. Every crater and ridge is a story written in the heaviest atoms the universe can produce, a silent history of fire and gold. Helium atmosphere planets exist as the shrunken cores of ancient gas giants, whose outer hydrogen layers were completely stripped away by stellar radiation. Over eons, the intense heat from a nearby sun can boil off the lighter hydrogen, leaving behind a heavy, transparent envelope of pure helium. This results in a world that is visually striking, as the lack of hydrogen hazes allows for a clear, deep view into the atmospheric layers. The sky on such a planet would not be the familiar blue of Earth or the hazy orange of a gas giant, but a sharp, clinical white or pale violet. Without the scattering effects of hydrogen, the stars would remain visible even during the day, appearing as sharp points of light against the transparent air. This structure creates an environment of absolute clarity, a world where the planetary interior is shielded only by the most noble of gases. The helium is so clear that you could see the shadows of the high-altitude clouds moving across the ground from miles above, creating a sense of dizzying open space. It is a ghost of a world, a stripped-down giant that has traded its massive opaque clouds for a thin and crystalline veil of transparent gas. As you visualize this transparent sky, allow your focus to drift to the sensation of the air moving in and out of your lungs. Feel the lightness of each breath, the effortless exchange of life-giving gases that connects you to your own world. You're breathing in a space of perfect clarity, resting in the quiet understanding that you are safe and supported by the atmosphere around you. The silent, transparent heavens of the helium worlds are a distant mirror to the clear, peaceful space you currently inhabit. The lack of gravitational compression means the air is thin and expansive, stretching for tens of thousands of miles into space before finally fading away. This creates a world that is more like a permanent planetary cloud than a solid body, drifting with an eerie, weightless grace around its sun. These superpuffs are so light that they could technically float on water, provided you could find an ocean large enough to hold them. They are the ultimate expression of atmospheric inflation, a world built entirely from whispers and dust, held together by the faintest of gravitational tugs. If we were to look closer, we might see a world where the boundary between the atmosphere and the vacuum is a long, slow transition of shimmering particles. The lack of mass means these worlds are easily shaped by the stellar wind, often appearing as elongated or distorted spheres that trail gas behind them like a comet. They are the lightweights of the galaxy, ethereal giants that challenge our perception of what a planet should be, existing as vast, beautiful ghosts in the dark. Their existence is a reminder that the universe can build worlds from the most delicate and insubstantial of materials. Ice giants similar to Neptune might contain slushy mantles rich in water, ammonia, and methane rather than solid rock or pure liquid. In the deep interior of these worlds, the combination of extreme pressure and moderate heat creates a state of matter known as a supraeonic fluid. Here, the hydrogen ions move freely like a liquid, while the oxygen atoms remain locked in a solid crystalline framework, resulting in a hot, electrically conductive slush. This structure is responsible for the complex and disorganized magnetic fields of ice giants, as the moving ions generate chaotic currents within the mantle. The interior is a swirling, pressurized storm of exotic ices and liquid fuels, constantly churning in the darkness far beneath the blue-green clouds. It is a world where the very ground is a flowing ionic soup, a bridge between the solid world and the gaseous heights of the upper atmosphere. This slushy mantle acts as a thermal buffer, regulating the heat of the core and driving the violent high-speed winds that define the planetary exterior. It is a landscape of internal motion, where the chemistry of the deep is never still, and the structural identity of the world is a constant pressurized flow. As you contemplate the strange flow of this suprionic slush, notice the fluid comfort of your own body as it rests. Feel the gentle circulation of your blood, the slow and steady movement of life within you that requires no effort at all. You're a miracle of biological fluid dynamics, resting in the quiet safety of a world that is solid where it needs to be and fluid where it must. The internal storms of the ice giants are a distant, abstract symphony, far removed from the gentle and rhythmic balance of your own resting state. Far in the future, as the universe continues to age and stars grow cold, the massive gas giants will slowly solidify, trapping their exotic internal chemistry in deep, frozen stasis. Without the warmth of their parent suns or the residual heat of their own formation, the internal pressures will eventually overcome the thermal energy of the gases. The liquid metallic hydrogen, the ionic slushes, and the vaporous atmospheres will transition into a permanent, crystalline state of absolute silence. This structure will transform the vibrant giants of our era into massive dark spheres of solid matter, drifting forever through a cold and empty galaxy. The internal complexity of their former selves, the howling storms and the metallic currents, will be perfectly preserved within a rigid molecular tomb of exotic ices and metals. They will become the permanent anchors of a dead solar system, holding the memory of their former glory in a grip of absolute zero. Every drop of liquid silver and every flake of metallic snow will be locked in place, forming a planetary heart that has finally come to rest. It is the ultimate completion of the crystalline chill of compressed carbon, a world where the architecture of matter has finally won over the chaos of energy. Beyond the finality of matter and its static, crystalline architecture, billions of rogue planets wander the galaxy entirely untethered from any host star. These nomadic worlds drift through the permanent darkness of the interstellar void, forever exiled from the warmth and light of a central sun. They are the orphans of the cosmos, navigating the immense reaches of space with a silent, stoic grace that defies our understanding of planetary systems. This vast population of hidden travelers moves through the absolute stillness of the deep dark, their presence only betrayed by the way they occasionally warp the light of distant background stars. Without a parent star to illuminate them, they remain invisible to most conventional telescopes, existing as ghostly silhouettes against the velvet blackness of the Milky Way. Each one is a self-contained mystery, a world that has traded the predictable rhythm of an orbit for the boundless freedom of the abyss. Surprisingly, the sheer scale of this nomadic population suggests that the spaces between the stars are far more crowded than we ever dared to imagine. These planets represent a fundamental part of the galactic ecosystem, moving in slow, solitary paths that may take millions of years to cross from one stellar neighborhood to another. They are the quiet wanderers of the void, existing in a state of eternal starless night. Deep within the immense reaches of the void, a wandering gas giant might maintain a complex and loyal system of moons as it silently navigates the spaces between stellar systems. Even without the anchoring presence of a sun, the massive gravity of such a world is sufficient to keep a family of smaller bodies trapped in its embrace. These moons orbit their dark master in the total absence of daylight, their paths illuminated only by the faint residual heat of the giant below. This cosmic structure creates a miniature system of absolute isolation, a travelling circus of ice and rock moving through the interstellar vacuum. The moons are tidally locked not to a distant star, but to the infrared glow and gravitational tug of their host planet, creating a unique and insular environment. They share a common destiny of exile, bound together by an invisible thread of gravity as they journey toward the unknown. If we were to look closer at such a system, we would see a mesmerizing dance of shadows and cold light playing out across the surfaces of the satellites. The giant planet looms large in their skies, a dark striped colossus that serves as their only reference point in a universe of distant, uncaring stars. It is a lonely but stable configuration, a testament to the enduring power of gravity to create order even in the most desolate corners of the galaxy. Surprisingly, these starless worlds were likely violently ejected from their home systems during the chaotic and competitive early days of planetary formation. When young solar systems are crowded with emerging protoplanets, the gravitational tug-of-war between growing giants can reach a point of sudden, catastrophic instability. One world is inevitably flung outward by its larger siblings, accelerated to such speeds that it breaks free from the sun's reach forever. This structure of celestial exile marks the end of a world's participation in the orderly life of a solar system, casting it out into the unforgiving cold. The process is a violent and random sorting of fates, where the configuration of a few shifting orbits determines whether a planet stays in the light or vanishes into the dark. Those that are cast out carry the chemical signatures of their birthplaces with them, serving as frozen time capsules of distant ancient nurseries. Every rogue planet is a survivor of a cosmic struggle, a world that has endured the ultimate rejection to find a new, solitary existence. They are the casualties of planetary evolution, transformed by a singular moment of gravitational violence into eternal wanderers. Their exile is not a death sentence, but a transition into a different kind of existence, one defined by the absolute stillness of the interstellar dark. If we were to look closer at a rocky rogue planet, we would find a surface frozen solid down to temperatures approaching absolute zero. Without the warming influence of a sun to drive an atmosphere or stir a sea, the very molecules of the world's crust come to a nearly complete halt. The air itself, if any once existed, has long since collapsed and solidified into a thick crystalline blanket of nitrogen and oxygen snow. As you contemplate this absolute zero, notice the comforting warmth of your own skin and the gentle weight of your hands resting in your lap. You are a vessel of biological heat, safely insulated from the eternal frost of the deep void. Allow yourself to settle deeper into your surroundings, finding peace in the soft, vibrant energy of your own resting body, while the distant world remains locked in its brittle, icy sleep. This structure of external freezing does not necessarily reach the planet's core, where hydrothermal vents powered by internal geothermal heat could create isolated pockets of warmth. Deep beneath the miles of frozen atmosphere and solid crust, the decay of radioactive elements and the pressure of formation continue to simmer. This internal furnace can sustain liquid water in small protected reservoirs or subterranean oceans shielded from the vacuum above. These isolated pockets of heat represent the only remnants of the planet's original vitality, tiny embers of warmth burning in an otherwise dead world. The vents act as deep-sea geysers, pumping mineral-rich water into the dark, pressurized cavities of the planetary interior. It is a subterranean oasis where the chemical energy of the Earth replaces the energy of the sun, creating a potential haven for a life that has never known the light. The silence in these deep chambers is absolute, broken only by the rhythmic, muffled hiss of the thermal vents. Above, the surface remains a frozen tomb, but here, the pulse of the planet still beats with a slow and stubborn determination. It is a world of two halves, a brittle cryogenic shell protecting a warm and liquid heart, proving that the spark of heat can survive even the most profound exile. Interestingly, some rogue planets might retain incredibly thick hydrogen atmospheres that trap primordial heat like a heavy thermal blanket. Because these worlds do not face the eroding power of a nearby star's solar wind, their original gaseous envelopes remain intact for billions of years. This dense, insulating layer is so effective that it can keep the surface at temperatures similar to those found on Earth, despite the total absence of sunlight. This structure creates a dark but habitable environment, a world where the sky is a permanent thick curtain of grey or black gas. The pressure at the bottom of such an atmosphere would be enormous, but the warmth trapped within would allow for the existence of liquid oceans and active weather patterns. It is a paradoxical realm of comfortable darkness, where the heat of formation is hoarded with jealous efficiency against the cold of the abyss. Standing on such a surface, you would feel the heavy, warm press of the air against your skin, even as you looked up into a sky devoid of a sun. The internal heat of the core radiates upward, meeting the descending pressure to create a stable, temperate zone. It is a world that has built its own greenhouse without a star, relying entirely on the strength of its own gaseous shroud to stay alive in the dark. Occasionally, while passing through dense interstellar dust clouds, a rogue planet might sweep up a temporary glowing tail of collected gas and debris. The motion of the planet through the interstellar medium causes it to collide with microscopic particles of dust, creating a faint frictional glow. This interaction forms a majestic, luminous wake that trails behind the world for millions of miles, much like the tail of a gargantuan dark comet. While these celestial tails flare in the distant dark, allow the muscles in your neck and shoulders to release their final traces of tension. Feel the softness of your environment supporting you, a sanctuary of stillness that requires no movement and no effort. You're safely anchored in the quiet, while the nomadic world illuminates its own path through the dust of the galaxy. The light produced by this interaction is very faint, visible only to the most sensitive of instruments, but it serves as a temporary crown for the wandering world. As the planet exits the dust cloud, the tail slowly dissipates, returning the world to its original invisible state. It is a fleeting moment of visibility in a billion-year journey, a brief and beautiful collision between a nomad and the substance of the stars. Straddling the line between planet and star, free-floating brown dwarfs emit a very faint eternal infrared glow in the void. These objects are too massive to be called planets, but lack the sufficient weight to ignite the nuclear fusion that defines a true star. Instead, they glow with the residual heat of their own gravitational contraction, peering to infrared eyes as warm, smouldering embers in the darkness. This infrared luminance is the only light they will ever produce, a dim and cooling radiance that will last for trillions of years. They occupy a lonely middle ground in the cosmic hierarchy, neither bright enough to illuminate a system, nor dark enough to vanish completely. Their atmospheres are filled with complex clouds of iron and silicate rain, churned by internal heat that keeps the gases in a state of perpetual glowing motion. To see a brown dwarf is to witness the slow and graceful cooling of a celestial body that almost achieved stardom. They move through the interstellar space like fading ghosts, their warmth slowly leaking into the vacuum until they eventually become as cold as the rogue planets themselves. For now, they remain the lanterns of the void, casting a soft and invisible light across the path of their nomadic cousins. Above these starless landscapes, the night sky on a rogue planet would be a breathtaking, unbroken tapestry of stars, never hidden by the glare of daytime. Without the scattering effect of an atmosphere illuminated by a nearby sun, the stars would appear with a clarity and brilliance that no terrestrial observer could ever experience. They would shine as sharp, unwavering points of light, extending from the horizon to the zenith in an infinite display of cosmic jewelry. This constant perspective on the deep cosmos would provide a sense of profound connection to the larger universe, even in the midst of absolute planetary isolation. The sky is the only companion for a rogue world, a source of constant, silent light in a life of darkness. It is an unbroken and magnificent view, where every photon that reaches the surface has travelled for centuries to greet the lonely wanderer. Ultimately, these silent travelers outnumber the stars in our galaxy, moving invisibly through the dark like ghostly cosmic ships. For every star that burns in the night sky, there are likely dozens of rogue planets navigating the spaces in between. They are the most numerous inhabitants of the Milky Way, forming a hidden majority that dictates the true density and mass of the galactic disk. This population of nomads forms an invisible web that connects the stars, a vast and silent fleet moving through the interstellar sea. Their numbers are so great that the chance of a rogue planet passing through a given solar system is higher than we once believed, potentially disturbing the orbits of comets and asteroids. They are the true masters of the void, existing in the spaces where we thought there was nothing but emptiness and cold. As they move through the dark, they carry the stories of 1 billion different origins, each one a unique testament to the diversity of the cosmos. They are the silent witnesses to the birth and death of stars, the quiet observers of the galaxy's long and winding evolution. Moving with a quiet, stubborn resilience, they continue their journey into the deep, glimpses of the vast and unknown oceans that await in the absolute stillness of the dark. While the absolute stillness of the dark void suggests a universe at rest, the overwhelming presence of planetary giants reveals a theatre of immense gravitational drama. Massive exoplanets like WASP-12b are subjected to such intense proximity to their host stars that they are physically stretched into a distinct egg shape. This tidal distortion is the result of the star's gravity pulling more fiercely on the near side of the planet than the far side, elongating the sphere into a celestial oval. As the planet is pulled, the internal friction generates immense heat, contributing to a glow that emanates from deep within its distorted bulk. To see such a world would be to witness the raw power of gravity acting as a sculptor, reshaping an entire planet into a monument of tidal stress. It stands as a haunting reminder that even the largest worlds are fragile when caught in the overwhelming shadow of their stars. If we were to look closer at gas giants in highly eccentric orbits, we would witness dramatic seasonal changes that completely rewrite their cloud banding patterns. Unlike the relatively stable weather of our own Jupiter, these worlds experience violent shifts in temperature as they swing from the frigid outer reaches of their system to the blistering inner regions. This radical swing in energy causes the atmospheric layers to churn and reorganize with every planetary year. The dizzying scale of towering storm clouds becomes apparent as new layers of chemical condensates flash freeze or vaporize in response to the changing distance from the star. Broad, calm bands of colour can be shattered into a chaotic mosaic of vortices and swirling plumes in a matter of weeks. The sky's a living, breathing tapestry that must constantly adapt to the fluctuating thermal environment of its elliptical path. This atmospheric volatility ensures that no two seasons ever look the same, as the chemistry of the clouds is perpetually in flux. It is a realm of infinite variety, where the visible face of the planet is a direct reflection of its long and erratic journey through space. The clouds act as a visual diary of the world's thermal history, recording every icy retreat and fiery approach in a swirling symphony of gas. Imagine a ring system so incredibly vast that if it replaced Saturn, it would dominate our night sky, appearing many times larger than a full moon. The world known as J1407b possesses a series of 30 massive rings that span tens of millions of miles in diameter. These rings are composed of dust, rock, and ice, organised into a complex architecture of gaps and dense bands that dwarf any structure in our local neighbourhood. The scale of this celestial halo is so profound that its gravitational influence can be felt by distant moons, herding the debris into sharp, clean edges. From the surface of a nearby world, the rings would span the entire heavens like a shimmering, translucent, vaulted ceiling of cosmic grit. They catch the light of the distant star, creating a display of refracted brilliance that turns the night into a perpetual golden twilight. As you contemplate the sheer magnitude of these rings, let your focus soften and your shoulders drop away from your ears. Feel the steady, rhythmic rise and fall of your chest, a quiet and natural movement in the center of your own peaceful space. You're anchored in the calm, resting safely while the immense rings of distant giants trace their slow, silent circles through the dark. Surprisingly, the architecture of the cosmos allows for massive planets to orbit small red dwarf stars, a discovery that challenges our fundamental understanding of how planetary systems form. Traditional models suggest that smaller stars should possess less material in their birth disks, yet we find gas giants many times the mass of Jupiter circling these dim, cool suns. This paradox implies that the processes of creation are far more efficient and varied than we previously believed. This structure creates a system of extreme proportions, where a tiny crimson star is visually eclipsed by the massive silhouette of its primary planet. The gravitational center of the system is a delicate balance between the small stellar host and its disproportionately large companion. It is a partnership that seems to defy the laws of cosmic probability, a heavyweight world tethered to a lightweight anchor. The presence of such giants suggests that even the smallest stars can nurture the most massive of worlds, given the right conditions. These systems are survivors of a unique evolutionary path, where the planet likely migrated inward or gathered mass with a ferocity that exhausted the surrounding debris. They stand as a testament to the universe's capacity for surprise, proving that size is not always a measure of birthright. Deep within these massive gas giants, atmospheric convection drives storms that are many times larger than the entire planet Earth. The internal heat of the core rises through the thick layers of gas, meeting the cold of the upper atmosphere to trigger a vertical churn of unimaginable power. These columns of rising vapor create towering supercells that can span tens of thousands of miles, reaching deep into the planetary interior. The dizzying scale of towering storm clouds is most apparent when one of these white-hot plumes erupts through the upper cloud deck. These features can persist for months or even decades, acting as semi-permanent landmarks on a world that has no solid ground. They are the engines of the planetary climate, redistributing energy on a scale that makes our largest hurricanes seem like mere whispers. Notice how the turbulence at the edges of these storms creates a fractal pattern of smaller eddies, each one still vast enough to swallow a continent. The roar of these convective giants would be a low-frequency rumble that vibrates through the very molecules of the air. It is a world where the weather is not an event, but the primary state of existence, a magnificent and terrifying display of fluid dynamics. Picture a moon orbiting one of these giants that is the size of a terrestrial planet, complete with its own thick atmosphere and active geology. These exomoons are essentially worlds in their own right, held in a tight gravitational embrace by their massive gas giant hosts. While the giant dominates the sky, the moon provides a solid foundation where liquid oceans might churn and volcanoes might pierce the hazy air. This cosmic structure allows for the possibility of habitable environments that do not rely solely on the light of a star. The tidal friction from the giant planet provides a steady source of internal heat, keeping the moon's interior molten and its surface active. It is a world defined by its proximity to a colossus, a satellite that has matured into a complex and vibrant planetary body. As you visualize the rugged terrain of such a massive moon, allow your own body to sink deeper into its resting place. Feel the reassuring pull of the ground beneath you, a stable and supportive force that connects you to the earth. You are resting on a world of solid stone and clear air, far from the crushing gravity of the giants and their massive shadowed companions. This structure of planetary protection is further enhanced by the magnetic fields of massive gas giants, which act as invisible shields in the void. These fields reach far into space, carving massive silent bow shocks through the stream of charged particles known as the solar wind. This invisible barrier deflects the high-energy radiation, creating a safe haven within the magnetosphere for any orbiting moons. The interaction between the magnetic field and the solar wind creates a spectacular display of auroras that dance across the planetary poles in shimmering curtains of light. These displays are not merely beautiful, but are the visible evidence of a planet's internal strength, generated by the churning metallic fluids of its core. The bow shock itself is a silent electromagnetic wall, a frontier where the star's influence meets the planet's defiance. If we were to look closer, we would see the magnetic lines of force trapping particles in vast, glowing radiation belts that encircle the giant. It is a complex and protective architecture of energy, a hidden layer of the world that defines its relationship with the rest of the solar system. The giant stands as a sentinel, its magnetic reach providing a bubble of stability in the harsh and energetic environment of open space. Notice how the catastrophic history of a planetary system can be seen in the high-speed collisions between ancient moons. When two satellites drift too close or are perturbed by the gravity of a nearby giant, they can be torn apart in a violent encounter that leaves behind spectacular, glittering debris rings. These rings are the ghosts of shattered worlds, a collection of pulverized ice and stone that traces the orbit of the former companions. This structure of debris does not remain static, as the particles slowly spiral inward, raining down into the giant's atmosphere over millions of years. This steady influx of material enriches the upper cloud layers with water and minerals, creating a subtle chemical signature of the moon's demise. The rings serve as a temporary memorial to a lost world, a shimmering band of dust that will eventually be consumed by the planet it once circled. The sight of these rings is a reminder of the dynamic and often violent nature of planetary systems over geological time. Every grain of dust was once part of a larger whole, a piece of a world that was sacrificed to the complex gravitational dance of the giants. It is a beautiful and quiet aftermath to a moment of immense destruction, a glittering rain that falls eternally into the deep. Some gas giants are so swollen by the intense heat of their nearby stars that their overall density is lower than that of common cork. These hot Jupiters have had their atmospheres puffed outward by the thermal energy, creating a bloated, low-density envelope that occupies a massive volume of space. Despite their impressive size, they are surprisingly light, a collection of hot, tenuous gases held together by a modest gravitational pull. Surprisingly, the universe allows these fragile giants to persist for billions of years, despite the constant erosion of their outer layers. They are the ultimate expression of atmospheric inflation, a world built on the expansion of heat and the lightness of hydrogen. Their existence challenges our perception of what it means to be a massive planet, proving that size can often be a mask for an incredible and airy delicacy. The gravitational dominance of a massive gas giant acts as a master conductor for its solar system, gently herding smaller planets into stable, sweeping orbits. By clearing its path of debris and influencing the movement of nearby bodies, the giant creates a structured environment where order prevails over chaos. This interaction prevents smaller, rocky worlds from colliding or being ejected, serving as a stabilizing force for the entire system. This cosmic structure reveals the giant not just as a planet, but as a keystone of the system's architecture. Its presence dictates the rhythm of the other worlds, ensuring that the dance of the planets remains a harmonious and predictable waltz. The gravitational resonance it creates acts as a protective buffer, a silent and invisible hand that maintains the balance of the heavens over eons. This invisible hand that maintains the balance of the heavens over eons eventually leads to the most haunting stages of planetary existence. Deep within the constellation Virgo, the very first exoplanets ever discovered were found not circling a vibrant living sun, but haunting the rapidly spinning core of a dead star. These worlds, known by the spectral names Poltergeist and Phobator, orbit a pulsar, the ultra-dense, magnetized remnant of a star that perished in a violent supernova explosion millions of years ago. Surprisingly, the universe revealed its first alien worlds in the most inhospitable environment imaginable, challenging every assumption about where planets could reside. The pulsar, PSR B1620-26, spins with such mechanical precision that it functions as a cosmic lighthouse, sweeping the surrounding space hundreds of times every second. These planets are locked into a high-speed orbital dance around a star that has been crushed into a sphere no wider than a city, yet possesses more mass than our entire Sun. This structure represents a ghostly resurrection of matter, where worlds have emerged from the scattered wreckage of a stellar cataclysm. They exist in a state of permanent twilight, illuminated only by the rhythmic flickers of the pulse's intense magnetic energy. To look upon them is to see the first pioneers of our exoplanetary catalogue, silent witnesses to a rhythmic pulse that beats with the cold, calculated heart of a stellar ghost. Picture these zombie worlds being constantly bathed in deadly sweeping beams of intense radiation from their frantic pulsar host. The skies are strobe light of lethal X-rays and gamma rays as the star's rotating magnetic poles project twin cones of high-energy particles across the planetary surface. This relentless bombardment ionizes the very air, turning any remaining atmosphere into a glowing, electrified shroud that shimmers with an eerie, violet luminescence. This structure of radiation creates a landscape of absolute sterilization, where the concept of organic life is rendered impossible by the sheer fury of the stellar remnant. The energy is so concentrated that it could strip the electrons right out of the soil, causing the ground to hum with a continuous invisible electrical discharge. Every few milliseconds, the horizon is flooded with a blinding pulse of invisible light, followed by a momentary return to the absolute black of space. If we were to look closer, we would see the surface glowing with a secondary, thermal warmth as it absorbs the brunt of the pulse's magnetic wind. It is a world caught in a permanent storm of subatomic particles, moving through a space that is as energetic as it is dark. These planets do not merely orbit their star, they are perpetually scoured by it, existing as resilient husks in a graveyard of light. This structure of pulsar planets was likely forged from the vaporized debris left behind after a massive supernova explosion transformed the original system. When the progenitor star reached its end, the resulting blast shattered the existing planets and scattered their heavy elements into a swirling incandescent disk. Over thousands of years, this recycled material cooled and coalesced once again, birthing a new generation of worlds from the literal ashes of the old. Surprisingly, the universe uses the destructive power of a supernova as a forge for new creation, recycling the heavy metals of a dead star into a second chance for planetary formation. These second-generation planets are composed of the densest materials, enriched by the intense nucleosynthesis that only occurs in the heart of a dying giant. They are the phoenixes of the cosmos, rising from a fire that should have erased them forever, only to settle into the cold, rhythmic embrace of the pulsar. The sheer weight of this history is embedded in every rock and ridge of these zombie worlds, marking them as relics of a vanished era. They carry the chemical signature of a cataclysm within their cores, a silent record of the day the sky fell and the stars were reborn. It is a cycle of destruction and renewal that highlights the stubborn persistence of matter in a universe defined by change. Planets orbiting white dwarfs survive the red giant phase of their star, existing in the quiet graveyard of a once active solar system. As a sun-like star reaches its end, it swells to a massive size, consuming its inner planets before eventually shedding its outer layers to reveal a small hot core. The surviving worlds are pushed outward into new distant orbits, left to linger around a star that has shrunk from a giant into a cooling, Earth-sized diamond. This structure creates a somber and peaceful environment, where the frantic energy of a living sun has been replaced by the steady, slow-fading warmth of a white dwarf. As you absorb the absolute stillness of this stellar graveyard, allow your own body to sink into the support of your environment. Feel the quiet stability of your resting limbs, finding a sense of profound calm that mirrors the long, silent retirement of these ancient surviving worlds. The sky above these planets is an eternal star-filled night, where the only sun is a distant, brilliant pinpoint that provides light but very little heat. They move through the void with a dignified patience, orphans of a system that has finally found its rest. It is a world of long shadows and profound silence, where the geological clock slows down to match the cooling of the white dwarf heart. Some white dwarves show distinct atmospheric pollution from rocky minerals, indicating they are actively consuming the remnants of their shattered planets. In these systems, the intense gravity of the dense stellar core pulls on the debris of asteroid belts and destroyed worlds, drawing them into a final spiraling descent. The star's atmosphere becomes a chemical logbook, recording the precise composition of the rocky bodies that it has slowly absorbed and vaporized. Surprisingly, the universe reveals the internal secrets of these dead worlds through the very light of the star that destroyed them. We can detect the presence of iron, magnesium and silicon in the white dwarf spectrum, identifying the exact ingredients of the planets that once orbited in the light. It is a slow and inevitable process of consumption, a stellar remnant tidying up the wreckage of its former life one fragment at a time. If we were to look closer, we would see a thin, glowing disk of pulverized rock surrounding the star, a shimmering ring of dust that marks the path of the next meal. This structure turns the white dwarf into a cosmic archive, holding the pulverized memory of an entire solar system within its thin, hydrogen-rich shell. It is a beautiful and tragic recycling of matter, where the world and its sun finally become one in the cooling dark. The starlight from this pinpoint sun is steady and unchanging, a frozen flare that will take billions of years to fade away. It provides a sense of permanent, unyielding daytime that never warms the ground, but never truly leaves it in darkness either. It is a sky dominated by a single, brilliant jewel, a star that has traded its size for an intensity that pierces the very soul of the planet. A planet migrating too close to a stellar remnant will be torn apart by the relentless tidal forces, forming a temporary swirling disk of dust around the core. This process, known as tidal disruption, occurs when the gravitational pull on the near side of the planet becomes so much stronger than the far side that the world's internal cohesion fails. The planet is literally shredded into a million fragments, transformed from a sphere into a long, glowing ribbon of orbital debris. As you visualize the slow, spiraling destruction of such a world, notice the gentle, rhythmic rise and fall of your own breath. Feel the absolute integrity of your own physical form, resting in a space where gravity is a supportive and invisible embrace. You are whole and safe, far removed from the crushing tidal reaches that turn entire planets into shimmering rings of pulverized stardust. The resulting disk of dust glows with the heat of the collision, creating a spectacular flat halo that circles the white dwarf or pulsar. This structure represents the final visible gasp of a planetary identity, a brief moment of beauty before the material is either consumed or scattered into the void. It is a transition from a world of substance to a world of dust, a silent reorganization of matter at the edge of a stellar grave. Slowly cooling white dwarfs will eventually fade into black dwarfs, leaving their remaining planets in eternal, absolute darkness. Because a white dwarf has no internal fusion to sustain it, it must rely entirely on its stored thermal energy, which it leaks into space over unimaginable timescales. Eventually, the brilliant pinpoint of light will dim to a dull red, then an infrared glow, before finally vanishing from the visible spectrum entirely. This structure marks the true end of light in a solar system, where the sun becomes a cold, dark sphere of degenerate matter that no longer interacts with the universe. The planets that once basked in its glow are left as frozen husks in an endless night, orbiting a sun they can no longer see. They move through a space that is as silent as it is dark, their surfaces cooling until they reach the same temperature as the cosmic microwave background. Surprisingly, the universe has not yet existed long enough for the first black dwarfs to have actually formed, making these worlds a vision of a distant and inevitable future. They are the final destinations of all sun-like systems, a quiet and cold completion of the stellar life cycle. In this eternal darkness, the planets and their dark sun will continue their silent waltz for eons, long after the last stars in the galaxy have flickered out. The highly magnetized environment of a pulsar can strip the surface material right off a small rocky world over billions of years of proximity. The intense magnetic field acts like a planetary-scale vacuum, drawing up charged particles from the crust and accelerating them into space along the pulsar's magnetic lines of force. This slow and invisible erosion can eventually hollow out a planet, leaving behind a shrunken metallic core or a cloud of orbiting ions. This structure of magnetic stripping turns the planet into a temporary reservoir of matter, which the pulsar uses to fuel its own energetic emissions. The world literally bleeds its mass into the void, creating a faint glowing wake of planetary material that trails behind it in orbit. It is a world that is being quietly dissolved by the very energy that anchors it, a victim of the pulsar's overwhelming electromagnetic appetite. If we were to look closer, we would see the surface of the planet glowing with a faint fluorescent light, as the minerals respond to the magnetic pull. The air, if it ever existed, is long gone, replaced by a vacuum filled with the screaming electronic noise of the pulsar's spin. It is a landscape defined by what is missing, a world being slowly erased by an invisible and unyielding force that leaves nothing but a ghost in its wake. Surviving planets in these systems stand as silent monuments to the immense and destructive power of stellar death. They are the remnants of a history that includes the expansion of giants and the fury of supernovas, carrying the scars of those events in their twisted geologies and depleted atmospheres. Each one is a unique record of survival, a testament to the fact that matter can endure even when the energy that once nurtured it has been violently extinguished. Notice how the journey of these worlds highlights the profound resilience of the cosmos, where every end is merely the beginning of a different, quieter existence. As you settle into the final moments of this exploration, feel the deep and restorative peace of your own resting state. Allow your mind to clear and your body to relax completely, finding absolute comfort in the quiet understanding that you are safe in the heart of a stable and enduring world. The rhythmic pulse of the dying starlight has led you through the graveyard of the heavens and into a space of absolute restorative silence. You have witnessed the ashes of ancient stars and the worlds that rose from them, finding beauty in the slow and dignified fading of the light. Now, as the journey concludes, you are left in a state of perfect and undisturbed calm, resting in the quiet cradle of a universe that never truly forgets its own history. This sense of cosmic history is most profoundly felt on the ancient world, PSR B1620-26b, a planet that has endured for over 12 billion years since the universe was in its earliest infancy. Born in the crowded, glittering heart of a globular cluster, this venerable wanderer has survived the chaotic dance of stellar evolution, witnessing the birth and death of countless stars. It existed long before our own sun was a mere whisper of dust, having been traded between a pulsar and a white dwarf in a complex gravitational waltz. The profound vastness of deep time has etched itself into the very core of this world, making it a silent witness to nearly the entire history of the cosmos. It stands as a testament to the fact that planets were being forged in the dark while the first galaxies were still struggling to take their final shapes. To contemplate its age is to recognize that we are latecomers to a grand, unfolding drama that has been playing out across the heavens for eons. It is the patriarch of planets, a stable and ancient anchor in a sea of shifting light. Deep within the tightest, most energetic orbits of the galaxy, there exist worlds where the speed of travel is so intense that relativistic time dilation becomes a measurable reality. These planets race around their host stars at significant fractions of the speed of light, causing the passage of time on their surfaces to slow down compared to the rest of the universe. A single hour spent in the shadow of such a massive high-speed world might equate to years passing in the quiet, distant reaches of space. Surprisingly, the sheer diversity of exoplanets discovered across the void reveals that our own solar system is surprisingly atypical in its orderly and predictable arrangement. We have found systems where giant planets orbit closer to their stars than Mercury, and others where multiple worlds are packed into a space smaller than the orbit of Venus. The neat, graduated hierarchy of small rocky worlds near the Sun and gas giants in the distance is not the universal rule, but a rare and specific configuration. Notice how this discovery reshapes our perspective, shifting us from being the standard model of the universe to a unique, quiet outlier in a much more chaotic neighbourhood. The architecture of other systems is often defined by violent migrations and gravitational upheavals that our own world was somehow spared from experiencing. As you absorb the realization of this cosmic diversity, let your own breathing fall into a deep, natural rhythm. Feel the comforting weight of your body as it rests in a place of perfect, orderly stability, far removed from the architectural chaos of the broader galaxy. If we were to look closer at our own cosmic backyard, we find it curious that the most common type of planet in the galaxy, the super-Earth, is completely missing from our neighbourhood. These worlds, ranging in size between Earth and Neptune, are found in nearly every other system we have mapped, often existing as the dominant planetary presence. They are the versatile bridges between rocky worlds and gas giants. Yet for reasons unknown, our solar system features a gaping void where they should naturally reside. This absence is a profound mystery that suggests our local history was shaped by a unique set of circumstances that prevented these common giants from forming or surviving. We are surrounded by a galaxy of super-Earths while we occupy a system of extremes, living in the space between worlds that define the rest of the cosmos. It highlights the fact that even in our understanding of the universe, there are massive pieces of the puzzle that remain hidden from our direct experience. Our home is a special case, a small, quiet island of terrestrial stability in a sea of massive alien super-Earths. This structure of the vacuum ensures that we are currently detecting the atmospheres of planets so distant that the light we observe left them thousands of years ago. When we analyse the chemical signatures of a distant world, we are looking at a snapshot of a sky as it existed when ancient human civilizations were first beginning to thrive. The light has travelled through the lightless void for millennia, carrying the secrets of a foreign atmosphere across the immense gulf of time and space. The profound vastness of deep time is bridged by these photons, turning our telescopes into literal time machines that peer into the vanished past of other worlds. By the time we see the glow of an alien sunset, the planet itself may have undergone radical geological shifts or atmospheric transformations that we can only imagine. We are historians of the heavens, collecting the light-born memories of worlds that have aged far beyond what our current view suggests. It is a slow and beautiful communication across the eons, a cosmic conversation where every word takes a lifetime to arrive. The universe appears to be a garden of worlds, many of which may possess the same delicate balance of heat and chemistry that nurtured our own existence. Each one represents a new roll of the dice in the grand experiment of planetary evolution, offering a billion different paths for complexity to emerge in the dark. As you consider the possibility of these distant living skies, allow the tension in your hands and feet to melt away into the stillness. You're resting in a space of quiet connection, a single point of awareness in a universe that is teeming with the potential for life. Picture the delicate, rhythmic shift in a star's light, caused by the subtle wobble of a massive world hiding entirely out of sight in the distance. This mathematical proof of a planet's existence is found in the tiny, gravitational tug it exerts on its parent star, causing the sun to move in a small, corresponding circle. We do not need to see the world directly to know it is there. The star's own movement serves as a silent and undeniable witness to its companion's mass. This cosmic structure allows us to map the invisible, using the laws of motion to detect the presence of giants that are lost in the glare of their stellar hosts. It is a testament to the precision of the universe, where even the smallest pull is recorded and can be deciphered by those who know how to listen. The wobble is a gravitational heartbeat, a rhythmic signature that tells the story of a world's orbit, its weight, and its distance from its sun. It reveals a universe where nothing moves in isolation, and every world, no matter how hidden, leaves its mark upon the heavens. The profound vastness of the galaxy is further revealed by gravitational microlensing, which allows us to spot planets thousands of light years away through the momentary bending of background starlight. When a foreground star and its planet pass directly in front of a more distant star, their combined gravity acts as a massive magnifying glass. This temporary alignment creates a sudden, sharp spike in the light we receive, a brilliant flash of cosmic geometry that reveals the hidden world's mass and position. Surprisingly, the universe provides its own lenses for us to peer into the deepest reaches of the galactic disk, revealing planets that are too far away for any other method to detect. These events are fleeting and rare, a singular moment of alignment that may never happen again for millions of years. It is a brief and beautiful bridge across the stars, a lighthouse flare that illuminates a distant nomad for just a few days before it vanishes back into the permanent dark. Through these lenses, we realize that the galaxy is filled with worlds that we can only glimpse through the coincidental grace of gravity. Curiously, the existence of these myriad worlds suggests that planetary formation is not a rare accident, but a fundamental feature of the cosmos itself. Wherever we find the heavy elements forged in the hearts of ancient stars, we find the building blocks of planets gathering together to form new spheres of ice and rock. The universe seems to possess an inherent drive to organize its matter into complex orbiting systems, turning the chaos of a dust cloud into the order of a solar system. This realization shifts our perspective from seeing planets as anomalies to viewing them as the inevitable outcome of stellar birth. Each world is a successful conclusion to a process that has been repeated trillions of times across the history of the galaxy. We live in a universe that is designed to create homes, a cosmic engine that perpetually transforms light and dust into the solid reality of a horizon. It is a comforting and magnificent thought, suggesting that the beauty of a world is a common and cherished theme in the grand design of the vacuum. Imagine every single star visible to the naked eye in the night sky is likely orbited by at least one undiscovered planet waiting in the silence. The heavens are not an empty display of lights, but a massive and crowded gallery of hidden destinations, each one possessing its own geography and its own unique story. When you look up at the familiar constellations, you're not just seeing suns, but the radiant anchors for billions of miles of unknown terrain and alien skies. This structure of the night sky turns every point of light into a promise, a gateway to a world that has never known the touch of a human gaze. The universe is far larger and more vibrant than it appears to the naked eye, holding its secrets in the dark spaces between the stars. As the journey through these alien worlds comes to its quiet end, feel the profound peace of being a small part of this immense and living tapestry. You are safe in the heart of a stable world, resting in the quiet cradle of a universe that is filled to the brim with wonders yet to be seen. The staggering diversity and ancient resilience of these alien worlds reveal that we do not live in a cold, accidental void, but in a creative and interconnected cosmos, where the birth of a planet is the universe's way of ensuring that its light and history are never truly lost to the dark. Deep within the grand design of the vacuum, we find a final, overarching truth that binds our journey together. The staggering diversity and ancient resilience of these alien worlds reveal that we do not live in a cold, accidental void, but in a creative and interconnected cosmos, where the birth of a planet is the universe's way of ensuring that its light and history are never truly lost to the dark. This realization offers a profound sense of belonging, a silent promise that every speck of matter carries a legacy of light and purpose through the eons. Surprisingly, the body possesses its own quiet intelligence, recognizing the exact moment to let go of the long journey and settle into the weight of the present. Notice how your feet feel as they rest against the surface beneath them, the toes finally loosening their grip on the waking world. A gentle, cooling wave of relaxation begins at your heels, slowly moving upward to soften the muscles of your calves and knees. If we were to look closer at the sensation of your physical weight, we would see it sinking more deeply into the mattress with every passing second. This quiet room is a sanctuary of absolute stillness, where the only movement is the rhythmic, effortless rise and fall of your chest. The tension in your thighs and hips begins to dissolve, replaced by a heavy, comforting sense of grounding that anchors you to the center of your bed. Deep within your muscles, the last traces of effort are fading away, leaving your torso feeling light and completely supported. Your shoulders drop away from your ears, releasing the heavy burdens of the journey into the welcoming softness of the pillow. This structure of relaxation continues down your arms, flowing through your elbows and wrists until your fingers curl naturally in a state of perfect and undisturbed repose. The fabric of the sheets feels cool and smooth against your skin, providing a gentle boundary between you and the hushed air of the room. A soft, tranquil pulse now guides you through the steady, reliable rhythm of your own heart. It is a quiet and restorative beat that leads you toward the edges of a deep and dreamless sleep. A peaceful cadence of comfort begins as the muscles of your neck and jaw finally soften, allowing your head to feel incredibly heavy and well supported. This quiet room holds nothing but the presence of your breath and the deep silence of a long day's end. Every slow inhale brings a sense of expanding peace, while every exhale carries away the final, lingering echoes of your thoughts. Everything is exactly as it should be in this sanctuary of stillness as you prepare to cross the threshold of rest. You're drifting now, moving away from the shore of wakefulness and into the deep, calm waters of an undisturbed sleep. Your breath is a slow and steady anchor, keeping you safe in the quiet and beautiful completion of the day. And now, 101 wonders are resting with you. Sleep now. Good night.